hit my record
Okay,
button,
cool.
but I lost you. It sounded like you dropped out.
You hear me?
Yeah, it's kind of it's Lonnie-esque.
Okay, hold on. Let me my
Like he didn't put you in the back
turn
trailer of his truck, did he?
that. Is that better?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, it's just kind of
Can you
cutting
hear
in
me
and
okay?
out. Yeah, that time I did. Yep, I've lost you again.
Hello.
Okay, there you go.
You hear me now? Okay.
Yes, okay.
Um, okay, so um Hayden came downstairs and I asked him if he could start the dishes for me, and he said okay, but are you going to pick up Cody? And I said yes. And then he said, can Trenton come too? And I said, I really don't want to go pick up Trenton, but if it's far. But he said it's only 5 minutes from Cody's. And I said, okay, I'll think about it. So Lonnie said, just stop asking questions and start doing the dishes. So he did. Then I got up and decided, you know what, I'm just gonna go get Cody right now, because Lonnie gets annoyed if we're watching a movie and we have to keep pausing it because the kids are talking to us and stuff. And I'm like, might as well just get all this stuff done. So Lonnie was like, okay, fine. So then Hayden was like, oh, you're gonna go get Cody right now. So should I tell Trenton that you're gonna get him too, or are you not gonna get Trenton? Lonnie started screaming at the top of his lungs. What did I just tell you? I told you to just do the dishes, blah, blah, blah. So I just was like, Lonnie, he's asking because he knows I'm actually going to get Cody now. And it's going to be a
I
up
lost you,
for him, blah, blah,
Jamie.
blah. And he starts screaming at me. So I was just like, you're being completely out of line right now. Sorry, but I just made a decision. Oh, can you hear me or no?
Yeah, I can. I lost a little bit
Okay.
of that. I got where he started yelling at them, and I think the last thing I heard was he's just asking me questions.
Yeah, I said he's just asking because he knows I'm going to pick up Cody right now. So he needs to know if he needs to tell Trent to be ready or not. And he's not trying to be, you know, overly obnoxious or disobey you. It's just now that I decided to go, his questions are valid at this
Hmm.
time. What do I want him to do? So then Lonnie got mad at me for sticking up for Hayden and was yelling at me a little bit. And I just was like, you know what? I feel like you're out of line right now and you're just yelling at everyone. And it's not okay. And he was like, oh, I'm out of line. Fine. That's just great. I will take myself out of line. And then he went in our room, slammed a bunch of stuff around, got in his car and left.
Hmm.
So, and I know that in um our past conversations and stuff, we've talked a lot about, me just making sure I'm on Lonnie's side and he's on mine. And he was sticking up for me in the conversation, like just trying to get Hayden and Tristan to just do what she said, you know. But I feel like if I'm having a conversation with them and it's going fine, I don't understand why he needs to like put his foot down and get annoyed with a situation that's kind of really just not that big of a deal and more simple than that.
Yeah,
And to
yeah.
be to be to be honest with you, but like not between you and I feel like I'm going to tell Lonnie this, and I guess it would be good for me to have your advice on it.
Okay.
I feel like I just am like at a point of zero tolerance for the aggression and screaming. Like,
Yeah.
the moment you start screaming, I'm literally just going to look at you and say, you're out of line and I'm not going to listen to this. And it's not okay that you're doing it to the boys or me. And so either remove yourself from the situation and come talk to us when you're not going to be screaming, or do whatever you feel is appropriate, which is what he did today. I'm just going to leave them. Okay, fine. And
Yeah.
I'm not even stressed. Honestly, John, I'm really not even stressed about it.
Yeah.
I would
So,
rather that he leave
yeah.
and remove himself for a little while than be crazy in the house and going nuts over stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to respond before I ask you another question because I want
Okay.
you to hear my opinion
Yeah.
before I ask for more details. And the reason I'm doing that, because that takes me out of taking sides. Because I know
Yeah.
it comes across like that. And it will never be I'm taking so-and-so's side. You guys know me well enough that if you're in the wrong, I'm going to tell you. And if Lonnie's in the wrong, I'm going to tell him. And it's never taking sides. I'm on the side of you guys being a marriage, not just married. So here's what I say to that on the surface. It depends on Hayden's demeanor in that moment. So here's my thing. I'm going to replay what you told me. I'm taking what you told me and I'm going to reenact it in two different scenarios.
Okay.
Hayden says, Jamal, can you pick up what's his name? Cody?
Yes, Cody and Trenton.
Cody. Okay. Yeah, I can do that later. Okay. Can you pick up Trenton too? I don't know. Let me think about it. Okay. But go ahead and do the dishes. Am I accurate so far?
Yep.
Okay. So now Hayden, at this point, I'm going to guess is headed toward the sink.
Yep.
Okay. You say, you know what? I'll go ahead and go get Cody.
Yep.
And his response is a respectful, okay, so should I tell Trenton you're coming to get him too, or is it just going to be Cody? And then that's when Lonnie got upset. Okay, don't say anything. Yes. Or was the scenario, I'm going to go ahead and go get Trenton. What? You're not going to get Cody too? Tell me if you're going to get Cody or not, and Trenton. I need to know this. Okay. Then Lonnie's reaction, I think, if Hayden is being disrespectful, pushy, not listening, hasn't made a moment's movement toward the sink, then Lonnie probably got a little upset because he's completely ignoring the orders. He's being disrespectful to you because he wants Trenton to come over with Cody, or you said, I'm not getting Cody. And then he got an attitude about that. That, I think, now, I will say this, I'll say it to Lonnie. From what little I know, this may be an overreaction even in that scenario. Now, if Hayden, in my first scenario, was moving toward the dishes, he was about to get it done, and he was legitimately asking, what are you going to do? Because it sounds to me, Jamie, like your decision to go get Cody was kind of almost like a change, an instant change.
Yeah,
Like, I'll do it later. You know what? I'll go ahead and go get him. Well, now the whole scenario shifts.
It was exactly. That's exactly what it was.
So if Trenton's going to get picked up, Trenton needs to know.
Right. Exactly.
And then so if Hayden's saying, should I let him know or not? If he's just trying to get an answer.
Simply that. Yep.
Okay. If that's the scenario, yeah. Yeah. So something, if that's the case, and I'd say this to Lonnie if you were sitting here, because I love Lonnie and he knows that. I would ask him, what was that reaction all about? You know, there is a point. Okay, so let me just throw my grandkids in the middle of the thing here. There's a point where I absolutely won't put up. Like, I had a meeting with them yesterday. They were outside. They weren't acting appropriately. Tanya came in here to get my help. And as I started to head outside, little Zach, the 4-year-old, runs out to Aubrey, the 10-year-old, and says, Aubrey, Papa John's coming to get you. And so I go out there and I did it like this. I said, I need all grandkids right here, right now. And I pointed down at the ground. I made them do a roll call because I can't see them. And I started to talk. While I'm talking, one of them decides to jump in. And I immediately shut them down. I went, blah, 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 blah. No, I don't need your help. Here are the instructions. Now, that is when you put your foot down.
Yep.
But when I'm done talking, they've got their instructions. And then one of them comes and says, so are we allowed to get into the pool now? That's legit. That's like, yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, if we're in the pool, can we play with the hose? Well, the answer is no. Okay. Getting clarification is different than arguing.
Right.
So
Exactly.
as a parent, it is a slippery slope sometimes. You have to know when and when not to overreact. We
Right.
all overreact. We've all done it.
Right.
We've all done it. However,
Yep.
it's not a pick your battle thing. It is a discerning spirit you have to approach and
Yes, I love
recognize.
that. Discernment.
Yes,
Discernment is a really big problem for us, for sure. Now, I mean, obviously, we have different parenting styles as moms and dads, you and Tanya, I'm sure. But the thing that I'm hearing with you and Tanya is she feels comfortable asking you for help.
she does now.
I'm going to be
Yes.
completely honest. I am completely going to be honest with you. I would not be able to do that with Lonnie
Okay.
because he's going to overreact.
Okay.
He's going to. There is no, and I don't know. I feel like we're moving in the right direction completely, and I don't want to hinder his growth at all. So I give him the opportunity to be able to do it. And I'm not going to say all the time, but most of the time, I still tremendously feel that his reaction is an overreaction. There's something, and I mean, it's kind of like, small example. We have like stimulation collar remotes for the doggies.
I have them.
I lost.
And I have them for grandkids too.
I hate saying shock collar because everyone freaks out. It's not really an electric shock, what I mean? It's just like whatever. So anyway, basically shock collars. And I lost the remotes this week. And Lonnie was feeling like the dogs were completely fine with him, even without them. It's okay. Blah, blah, blah. And I've been looking for the remotes for days and just was driving me nuts because I knew it was me. I knew I lost it. And actually, funny story, after we got into an argument about it, I found them in my car. But back up
of course.
In my car. I'm like, why? How did they get in my car? I don't know. But I must have absentmindedly, brought them out to the car after I walk in the morning before work or something.
Yeah, none of us ever do anything like that either.
I have no idea why or how. So, anywho, the doggies, I had asked him if he could walk the dogs in the morning before we left for work because they don't listen to me like they listen to him. Yeah. And I'm like, and I just explained that to him, like, you're more alpha-y. They do not, I mean, I can leash them all separately. If you don't have time to do it, that's fine. Cause we were both kind of like, almost running out of time, getting a little bit like we need to leave soon. He said no, said he didn't have time. I said, okay. So I brought the dogs out myself, and an Amish horse and buggy rode by, and the dogs tweaked out and wanted to go play with the horsey and ran in the road. And we're chasing them up and down the road. And it's this whole thing. And Lonnie's backing out of the driveway. So naturally, he chases after the dogs in his car, gets one of them, to kind of follow him back home. And we get them back home, and all's well that ends well. We both get to work on time. The dogs are fine. Nobody got hurt. So it's okay, But then he was angry and was like talking to me on the way to work, called me and was like, I'm just going to put my foot down that we don't need shock collars anymore at all. We're just going to go back to walking them on leashes. It doesn't work. Nobody knows where they are. We've bought multiple shock collars. They break, they do this. And I'm like, well, we just found this really good brand, and I bought them the last 2 times, and they are able to play in the yard and have a good time. And he's like, you're making excuses, and I don't want to hear it. So I was like, okay, well, respectfully, you can walk the dogs with the leashes if you want to, but I'm going to continue doing what I feel works best for me. And he was like, okay, fine then. And it kind of like ended there, but I know that he feels kind of like disrespected in that aspect. And that's how Lonnie reacts with many situations. Like, it's one extreme or the other. It can't just be, okay, now we learned. I told him I wanted to put like a little key holder thing in our mud room, and we just hang up the remotes right there as we're coming in the house and walking out of the house, so that in my ADHD brain, I have a plan and a routine, and this is what I'm going to do to help rectify this. Nope, it doesn't work. Just scrap that. You're not doing any of that, So I just felt like, and that's how he is with Hayden. If he has to discipline Hayden and he feels like I felt he overreacted, well, I'm never, ever going to say anything to Hayden ever again. Never.
yeah.
I'm never going to discipline him. That he immediately goes to, well, that doesn't work at all. And we're not doing that. We're just going to
That's
leash the dogs and walk them
called,
individually, you
yeah,
know?
that's either called, I don't know the term exactly. That's either cognitive distortion or cognitive dissonance is what he is
Okay.
displaying.
Put
I
that in
know
my notes.
cognitive distortion isn't it, I think what he's doing is cognitive dissonance, but cognitive distortion is like you always, which is never the
Right.
case. I just did
Right.
it, but I'm accurate. It's I'm always, or that always happens in one extreme or the other. There's never an in between. That is cognitive distortion. So he's got that, but
Yes,
then
he
the way you
does that
say
too.
it, he might have a combination of both. So I'm going to ask you, Jamie, what in your mind, what do you think is the reason that he reacts in such ways? And I'm going to give my input here in a minute.
Well, I think that what we've discussed a few times in earlier sessions and just kind of a little touched base on it just a slightly is that he doesn't trust me to follow through because I haven't always been the best at it. So he doesn't take my, ability or my role that is appropriate seriously because I
Mhm.
either don't react the way that he would or I don't follow through with what we discussed I was going to do. Now,
Mhm.
obviously, in this case, that's not exactly what happened or anything,
Sure,
but it's
sure.
still like that residual,
Yeah,
like it's just kind of what's in the back of his mind. I
yeah.
have gotten leaps and bounds better, and we are both much, much happier. But still, if he gets frustrated, he can't control, those just like the natural occurring reaction for him that he feels this is the way it should be handled.
Mhm.
And if I'm not in 100% agreement with that, then I just want to argue with him. And I'm not, I just
Hmm.
feel unallowed to have a voice or an opinion. And if I say that, then he says, okay, fine, I'll just shut up and we'll do whatever you want to do because I'm
So
never going
back to
to
the opposite extreme.
back to the opposite extreme. Exactly. So,
Okay.
and I tell him, I'll sit there and I'm very loving and I'll just simply say, that's not productive, honey. We can sit down and figure this out. We can figure it out. We can find a common ground. Nope, nope, nope. I don't want to hear any of that gay shit, is his words he always says to me, quote
Wow.
unquote, Lonnie. I don't
Wow.
want to hear any of that, and that's it. So it's gets hard sometimes because so that's why I told you a couple weeks ago when I wrote to you, I just want to pray hard for him and start letting God do the work because if I say anything outside of, I appreciate you, I love you, I respect you, and
Mhm.
if I show at all that I'm like criticizing, quote unquote, he just completely is not open to those conversations at all.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
mean,
Go ahead.
I have one more thing too.
Okay.
Um,
You're
I want
fine.
to know what your opinion is about this too.
Okay. Sure.
So I've been working extra hours. We're coming up on back to school time for work. So I went to work Wednesday. He was off yesterday. Um, and I went to work at 9 in the morning and didn't get home until almost 10 o'clock at night
Oh my.
Tuesday. And then, yes, Tuesday. And when I got home, the kitchen is a mess. The same dishes are still there from the morning when I left. And then, Tristan was like, I'm starving, mom. Lonnie did not ask him about dinner, didn't plan any dinner, nothing. So I got home around 10:15, 10:30, and then had to go to the store and buy something for Tristan for dinner at almost 11 o'clock at night.
Because you
I
didn't
didn't
have
say
anything in the
anything.
house?
Yes, I have a grocery shop that for tomorrow, and we do have like we have cookable food, but I don't want to cook then,
Well,
you
no,
know?
no, no. Yeah.
So it was like one of those things like, so we just ran and got like subs and chips and a couple drinks at the
Okay.
store, and then just ate it on the way
Yeah.
home. And that was that. But in my mind, I was a little upset. Like, you know what? I work too. And I'm kind of getting a little upset that he does absolutely zero in the house on his days off. But I'm expected to keep the house clean, keep the kiddos in order, work, and he just gets to work and come home, and he'll say that he's going to help or do something, but he doesn't. He
Hmm.
doesn't do that. And he doesn't. And it's tough for the kids because he's very much, do this, do that with them, and really on them about making sure their room is clean and doing the things that they need to do. When his bedroom, his side of our bedroom, my side looks neat and tidy. His side looks like a tornado went through it, like that. And actually, it's to the point where it was driving me nuts. So I cleaned it like 3 or 4 times, like redid his whole entire closet. And then 3 weeks later, it's back to that way. So I just stopped doing it. This was
Yeah.
probably a good, after we did counseling, it was within the last 3 or 4 months. So it's just kind of like you've talked to him about before. The boys are old enough to kind of see what he does compared to what he asks, and what he does compared to what he expects from
That's
them
right.
too.
That's right. That's
So
right.
if he wants that respect from everyone, and he wants all of us to act like this house is a team, it's his house too.
Yeah.
It is his home too. So I have all these big struggles right now, John. So that's it. I'm going to be quiet now.
No, you're good. This is what I'm here for, Jamie. This is what I'm supposed to do, is listen to you. Now I'm going to preface it, and I'll probably do this until my final breath anytime I'm working with people. Always preface it by assuming what you've told me is accurate. I learned that little comment and how to handle these things when I was officiating high school basketball.
Right.
Because the coach would scream at me about missing a play or missing a call. I learned through them to say, Coach, if it happened like you said, then I missed it. And then they can't respond to that.
Right.
It's like, yeah, if it happened like you said, I absolutely missed it. 99% of the time, it didn't happen like they said. They're just trying to work us. Well, that
Yeah,
thing.
absolutely.
So I use that in my sessions, because I'm like, you know what? Unless both of you are here, I'm only getting one side of the story. And that's what makes this sometimes difficult. But I'm going to, like I said, assume and take your word for everything you said as accurate.
And John, can I just put out there too, when you talk to Hayden, and we've talked about it a little bit, and I've confirmed it with my brother, Tristan. I mean, Bobby is very much, I didn't see anything, I didn't hear anything, and I don't want to be involved, right? Like when it comes to drama and stuff like that. And he told me flat out, James, I came down here to get between them because it was the first time ever that I really thought, I think Lonnie's going to actually physically hurt him. And Tristan said the same thing. Tristan said, Mom, it was the first time, I've never heard Lonnie that out of control ever. He said, out of all the times, that it's happened, he said, this sounded like the worst. And I was getting really nervous. And that was when I was out of town.
Yeah.
And, so I know that Hayden really shared with you, his feelings about exactly what happened. And I've talked with Lonnie about it several times too. And Lonnie really still now, he has said to me flat out, like, I have zero regrets about that day at all. And I feel like I handled it completely within my, rights as a parent, and feel like I handled it well. And I love my Lonnie so much, right? Like, I really love him so, so much. But I'm telling you, as a person who has, how can I put this? Lonnie has social problems like this with a lot of people in his life. That's why he started truck driving, because you get to be mostly by yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he's super wonderful entertainer. He's so fun to be around. But when he feels like someone is like stomping on his ego, or doesn't take him seriously, or disrespects him, or takes advantage of his kindness, he kind of flips into this like survival mode guy. And I understand completely that's part of like how he grew up. It's part of what he's been through. It's part of his childhood trauma. But I hope that we can start kind of working in a good direction to break through that a little bit more. And I know that that's going to take prayer and God. Now, I'll be honest, Lonnie sat on our bed one day after a counseling session with you towards the beginning and said, I've been fighting the wrong way the whole time, and I already know myself, and this is not the way that I operate in my mind. So it's going to take God to change me. It's
Yeah,
going to take a miracle. You
that's
know,
right.
I don't have the ability to do this on my own.
Well, let
You
me
know,
say
and he
this. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was just going to say, and he knows that. So
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, you have some things going for you. He's a man that I think wants to do better. I think he wants
He
to
does.
grow. I think he
He
wants to
does.
be a man of God. I think he wants to
He
treat his family like he's supposed to. Two
does. Mhm.
thoughts here. Well, first of all, everything you've told me when we start these Monday night sessions, which is probably why the enemy is trying to hinder me from getting this book done, it's going to help him grow. It's going to help all of us grow. It's challenging. It talks about some of the stuff that you've told me,
Okay.
responding and all of that. Okay. Now, one of the things that hit me as you were telling me about his reaction to Hayden just asking if you're getting Trenton was anger. And the Bible
Right.
says that sinful anger is unnecessary anger or fixed anger. So, like I said, if it happened and went down like you said, then that would qualify as unnecessary anger. It was unnecessary to get
Right.
that upset over Hayden just wanting to make sure he knew what was going on so he could let somebody know something. I'm assuming that's
Yeah.
why he asked, or just to know since you were already leaving.
That was literally it. And he was so like soft spoken and nice
Yes.
and like no attitude at all.
Okay.
Actually, I think that he kind of got the drift that like he knew Uncle Lonnie was already annoyed and he was trying to tiptoe lightly. You
Got
know,
you.
he was like, oh, I
Yeah.
don't want him to get mad, but
Yeah.
so should
Okay.
I? You know? And he
But
was
that's
already at the sink doing the dishes. So
okay.
yes, he was doing
So
them.
he was doing his chore. Okay. So he was
Yeah.
already doing what he was. That'd have been a
Yep.
great time that to say, hey, thank you, Hayden.
Yeah.
You did this as
Right.
soon as we said,
Right.
and I'm proud of you for that.
Right.
That would have been a great
Right.
response. So
Right.
that's one thing. The other thing that's really kind of listening to you talk about some of his reactions and some of his in the way you described it, if you disrespect him and all,
Mm.
and that's a typical man thing. We all want to be
Yes.
respected. Even women want to be respected, just like women want to be loved. So do
Right.
we. But that sounds a lot. I never really thought about this until today. But Lonnie grew up in an abusive environment. So these actually fall in line and are very similar to trauma responses. As an
I think
example,
so. Yes.
here is a trauma response. I'm going to interrupt you because you will not get the power. I'm going to have it
Yep.
my way. I'm going to demand my way because I will not be overpowered by anybody. I'm going to keep control of this whole thing. And see, when you respond with that cognitive distortion and say, fine, I'll just shut up, we'll do it your way, that's still maintaining the power because he made the decision.
Yes. Now he's
That
taking what power he does have of the situation and saying that's what I'm going to do because you're not going to control me. I
that's
get that.
right.
Yes.
That is a trauma response to the T. So now I'm wondering if this trauma he experienced growing up has made a lot more of an impact on him than any of us even noticed, even you, and you've been married to him for several years. So it makes me
Right.
wonder. So that's where the warfare comes in. Spirit, you demonic spirit of trauma response. See, we don't realize that most things like that have demonic spirits attached. So we have to uh, revoke the power from those demonic spirits. You spirit of trauma response, you spirit of alcoholism, you spirit of drug abuse, you spirit of rebellion, spirit of defiance. They all have spirits to them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have such a hold
Right.
on a lot of people. So
And you know
that's where the
what? I think
spiritual
it really
warfare
was
comes in.
profound. Yeah, and I think it was profound for Lonnie when we did Marital Monkey on Monday that he definitely heard like, wow, we have our own specific demon attached to us and
That's
stuff,
right.
you know?
That's right.
I think it kind of got his mind spinning with like, am I more vulnerable than I think I am? You know, because the attacks can come and be very personal, specific to you, you know? So I think
Yeah.
that really hit home for him.
Well, not only that, Jamie, and we talked about it a little bit in the initial session of warfare, but let's say that you and Lonnie are so rock solid, you're armored up every single day. That means nothing can harm you, Luke 10:19. You've got your shield of faith, your breastplate of righteousness, your helmet of salvation, your uh, uh, belt of truth. You've got all of that. You're armored up. The shoes of peace. You've got all of that. How is Satan going to get to you? He can't get to you. He could throw all the darts he wants. It just doesn't do anything. However, Satan's slick and sneaky. So he'll use other people to cause you issues. And then we forget we're fighting against spiritual warfare and we think we're fighting the people themselves. And now we're completely out of focus. And you know what? I'm not going to say the details. Normally, I'm super private. Every once in a while, I'll be transparent, but I'm very private about my life. And there is a specific situation, Jamie, that I've even changed my prayer ways on during my study time with the spiritual warfare and all of that. And I've started praying against demonic forces of situations. And would you believe there's been a little movement already?
Really? I'm so happy for you. I'll try that.
So the first thing I would advise you on the spiritual front, I don't know, name it what it is. Whatever, whoever, whatever you're named, I know that you're the ruler, the demonic force over our marriage. And I'm telling you, as a child of the King and by the blood of Jesus, I have the power to tell you that I can trample on you and I revoke your power, and you have no power over mine and Lonnie's marriage. You're done. So are all your little minions. I revoke their power because I have the authority to do so, and I'm claiming it now. You literally revoked the power.
I will absolutely do that today.
So that's how you go into spiritual warfare. But at the same time, we have to be practical too, right?
Say that one more time, John. I'm sorry.
I said, but we also have to be practical too, right?
Yes, exactly.
Because God gave us a brain to handle what's going on this earth. So with Lonnie,
I have another question for you too.
Yeah,
John.
yeah. Go ahead. No, you're good.
I'm sorry. This has been bothering me for like almost a month probably. And it's been something that I have I've really prayed on for me to just have my heart softened and to let it go and not worry about it and just pray. And it's just, the way that Lonnie's mind is working sometimes. But we were sitting in my car one day, probably about a month ago, talking about my brother Bobby's situation and just which has been having a toll on us for sure. And I know we've talked to you about that personally last week, just how that is affecting me. The emotional part of that is a big deal for me. And I am trying to work on actively separating, not letting it affect me and Lonnie and our marriage and our intimacy and all that kind of stuff. I do think that it kind of brings back old feelings of my ex-husband and stuff and how that ended and that betrayal and kind of all that. And it's so related that my brother even seeked out my ex's advice on how to move forward, which was just so absolutely crazy to me.
Okay, so
wow.
Let me stop really quick. I need a little more detail because I'm a little lost. What is it about Bobby that you're trying to separate, and what is it that Bobby sought advice about?
So, long story short, my ex-husband and I were married 10 years. We had trust. We were raising Hayden, blah, blah, blah. He was kind of like a serial cheater. There was lots of occasions where I thought he might be cheating, but I couldn't actually prove it. So I kept letting it go. And then the final straw, he actually was having like a relationship with a mutual friend for like over 3 months. And I found out through another friend that this girl was pregnant. And so they had a baby together. Um, so I divorced him. Kevin or Lonnie and I started dating a few months later. And it
Okay.
was a huge, I was very serious about marriage then. And it was a big, obviously, it was really devastating for me.
Yep.
So fast forward now, Bobby with his girlfriend, he gets engaged. Um, they plan to have a baby. She gets pregnant. Bam. 3 weeks later, he decides he's not ready for any of this and breaks up with her. Fast forward now 5 months. She's almost 7 months pregnant right now, and they're having a daughter. Well, everybody was very excited, but we just found out that Bobby's actually been seeing another woman for like the last 5 months.
Mm.
So her family is absolutely devastated, and it obviously there's a huge drama going on between, well, their family's trying to make it between the whole families, but we are just, as far as like me, my siblings, my mom, we're telling them, all of them, like, we understand that you are like irrationally upset right now, to the point where you're being irrational, but that's normal. Like, they're telling us now. Ashley also has a son, Grayson. We've talked to you about him a few
Mm-hmm.
times. That's not
Mm-hmm.
actually Bobby's biological son, but we spend a lot of time with him. So now the family is threatening that we're never going to be able to see Grayson again, and we're all liars, and we must have known, and all this stuff. And we are just being super graceful and saying, we're here for you guys. We understand that you guys are so upset, and we're just going to let this stuff go. Say what you need to say, because we get it that like you're just so absolutely devastated right now. And so are we. So that's kind of, and Bobby's been down here. I mean, in our house, getting advice, quote unquote, from us for days and days and days the past couple of weeks. Like, I can tell he's literally being tormented by this. He feels awful, but he also not awful enough to change or try to make it right. He's just being extremely selfish. He wants to do what he wants to do. Really
Mm-hmm.
isn't listening to advice from me or Lonnie or anybody else, but he wants to hear it. He wants to be heard and be around us and not feel alone. But he isn't interested really in fixing anything. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the truth. He's 27. He's just a hot mess right now. So Lonnie was upset with me on a couple of different nights that we were talking to Bobby. We came to bed. We had to work in the morning. I am tired and just absolutely like emotionally drained from this, crying because I feel so bad for Ashley. She's, over at her mom, staying there with her big pregnant belly alone, and knows that Bobby is with this other girl now, and just so sad. And it's just, and I love her. Like, we were very close. We were hanging out a couple times a week, really getting to be good friends. So it's been a hard situation for me. And Lonnie is, mad at me a couple of times because I didn't want to be intimate, because I was like just not in the mood with everything going on. And then, he'd kind of throw like, oh, like a couple Bible verses at me, or, how I'm like, how I'm kind of letting it get like split
God.
us apart, kind of thing. And I need to be putting us first and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I completely get that. And I will get my head straight, but just give me like a little bit of time. I just want to process, like, this all just happened this week. So that's been kind of weighing on us big time. Well, so rewind now that you have all that. Like a month ago, we're sitting in the car talking about how Bobby broke up with her. We didn't know about the other girl yet, but we knew that like it was just kind of out of the blue and so weird. And
Yeah.
why is he kept on having her back, then telling her she had to leave again, having her back, telling her she had to leave. It was just so weird. So we're sitting outside talking about, how tragic it is and everything. And I said, Bobby said he just feels like Ashley doesn't let him live his life the way that he would like. And she's just always upset at him if he wants to go to the gym, if he wants to do anything. And he feels trapped. And I said, I'm so happy that that's not a problem for us, that you don't feel trapped. I don't feel trapped. You have your friends. I mean, once a month, Lonnie will go out with his friend Jay, and he doesn't get home until 5 or 6 in the morning. No exaggeration. Like, I do not call him. I don't text him. I let him have a good time. Sometimes he sleeps over there. Sometimes he comes home late. Like, I'm not, you go do what you want to do. I trust you completely. And Lonnie came back with, this was his reply. What are you talking about? He's like, I'm absolutely trapped. I told you that I didn't want to live here anymore. And you told me we have to do couples counseling. And I did that. And now I have to stay here. And um now I have like a biblical and godly obligation to just be unhappy and have to be forced to stay in the situation. When you could have just said, go ahead and live by yourself, but we'll still be married just like you want and do all that stuff. But you didn't trust that that would work. So I was put in a situation where I am trapped every day. And I literally kind of just didn't even respond to it because I didn't even know how to at that time. But now it's been about a month and it has seriously weighed on me
Yeah.
a lot. Like, just that's heavy. That's like, and I feel like, so all this time that I felt like we were doing so much better and we're both, coming together as a team, and we've spent countless amount of hours with John. And is it like ingenuous? Is it like you still feel like you don't even really want this and you're just being forced to do it? Like, I feel like that's a huge problem.
That
So,
that's another trauma response.
you think so, John? Is that what it
Yes.
is?
Here's why. Trauma victims have this thing called self-sabotage. And they will unknowingly sometimes do things to mess up stuff because it's too good to be true in their mind. And that trauma, and the other thing is minimizing something, it can't be as good as it seems to be. So there is a minimization of the scenario. You guys have been doing good. So let me just talk here for a second. In these sessions, he talks about Jamie hasn't gotten it perfect yet, but she's done a lot better. He feels like when you guys are working together more so, like as an example, what we say to do gets done immediately. This isn't do it later, it's do it now. You guys applied that, right?
Yes.
Okay, how's it going with that?
Good.
Okay,
Good.
so being trapped,
Mm.
I don't, I mean, that sound, okay, I'm not gonna say it's factual that it's a trauma response, but it has the symptoms of a trauma response. Or is it Lonnie doesn't feel worthy? Is there something else going on we don't know about as far as the thoughts he has about himself or what have you? Growth is a hard thing. And I think I may have told you guys, but your past, whether it's your past marriage as you and Lonnie, the past of your marriage, your past as a human being, the crap you did years ago that was so awful, your past can destroy you or your past can develop you. You get the choice. And I don't know what he's fighting, considering what you're telling me, but that
Right.
him saying that at that time doesn't seem to fit in the narrative of the last 8 months. That
Not at
seems
all.
so far out of the blue. So that makes me go, what was it? That trauma responsive, do I still have to have the power? Or is that I want you to feel sorry for me? What is it? Is it playing the
Right.
victim? Another trauma response. I don't know because he's not here that I can ask him that question. But here's the thing I would say to either one of you. When did marriage come about you anyway? And if
Right.
he thinks he is trapped to be unhappy, that's a concerning statement to me
Me too. Yeah.
because he is depending on this life to be his fulfillment, which I didn't say that right. Scratch that from the record. He's depending on things other than God to fulfill him and sustain him. That would be my conclusion off of not knowing exactly what happened to the T or what he's thinking.
Right.
But to
Right. And I
say I'm
agree with
trapped to be
that.
unhappy, my response would be, no, you're not. The door still opens and you can walk out, but Jamie's not abusing you. Jamie is trying to work with you according to him and according to you. And we still have a long way to go with both of you to learn how to connect better and unify better, right? We're always going to be growing,
Yeah.
always,
Always gonna be growing.
always. But if the effort's there and you guys are working to make your house better and more wholesome, that's not a scriptural reason to walk out the door.
No, and the thing that really like upsets me and bothers me about that part too is that because it's almost like because our life isn't perfect, he can never just enjoy the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it like, honestly, it really does bring down the whole family morale in our home. Like he doesn't realize how much effect he has on everyone's demeanor, their comfortability in our home, feeling like we all need to walk around on eggshells. Like he's gotten phenomenally better. But I'm not the type of person, John, that's like that sickeningly overprotective mom, or nobody can say anything to my children, or I never raise my voice ever. It's not that way. I promise you, if I am telling you that I've had to do damage control and protect them from him, it's because it's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
100%. So I do feel like, on one hand, I completely understand that all of that is a trauma response and everything. And I am 100% willing to put all the work in and do everything that we need to do to be happy and successful together. But don't whine to me if you feel like it's you against us, because I did not put you in that position.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want me to have to protect the boys and myself from your anger, then don't get that angry,
Mm-hmm.
period. It is literally that simple. There was no reason for him to scream Hayden's name today. Just do what I told you to do, Hayden, just like at the top of his lungs. Now, I mean, you looking at your grandchildren and pointing at them and being like, nope, absolutely not. Sit down, you do this, you do this, you do this. That's just getting them in line.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you 100%, no exaggeration. What Lonnie's doing is a different level. The
Yeah.
video that you guys heard of him, that is the way it is way more often than he will ever admit.
Yeah.
So, and I don't want that in my home for them.
Yeah.
So, and he has been a lot better. And I'm not saying he has not been a lot better. Actually, what he's doing is saying that even though things are getting better here and there, there's still flub ups. So my life still sucks, you know? And it's like, get over it,
Welcome
dude.
to life.
Stop your whining. And I read
Stop.
half of your book, by the way.
You would be shocked at how many times I hear that from people. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, and truthfully, I read half of that book already. It came in the mail here a few days ago, and I'm already halfway through your book.
Oh, wow.
And yeah. And I'm like, I keep reading it and going, man, that is so true. It is just so true. Stop your whining, man. Just get it together. You can handle.
Well, see,
So,
I would respond to Lonnie like this. Do you think when I married a woman that I expected her son to move in and his kids practically for us to raise? I mean,
absolutely not.
literally, we are practically raising those kids because 2 weeks ago, he worked every day, 12-hour shifts. We watched those kids between 80 and 90 hours that week, and he watched them maybe 10 or 12. This week,
Yeah.
it's a little different, but we're probably in the 60, 70-hour range, and he's probably around the 15-hour range. Do you think I asked for that? No. Well, what am I doing? I'm looking at looking at it. And here's my transparency. I never stopped it, never tried to stop it. I feel like I'm very fair. I feel like I'm very reasonable. I don't mind helping the dude out. I don't mind it at all. But I also know that there's a time that you got to finally get going and kind of branch out and do that. But when the kids, we started getting them a lot, it's overwhelming to me because people don't understand just how mentally draining it is to not have
Mm-hmm.
much vision and constantly have kids running around and banging on stuff and screaming. And then I've got to watch them. And then I've got to be like, well, where'd they go?
I
And
know. And reading your book, it was kind of like I felt like I was getting to know better, what it was like at the beginning
mhm,
of not being able to see well in that whole transition. I'm like, man, that is heavy. I didn't even think of it in the terms that you explained it because, of course, I wouldn't. I've never experienced that until
exactly.
I read your book,
So,
so I get that.
so I could say, do you think I asked for that? No. But what's the Bible call us to do? We're going to study this on Monday night, not this coming Monday night, down the road. If if someone does not provide for their relatives and especially their own household, they are considered to be worse than an unbeliever.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a time, but there's also discernment that goes with that. Is it a need or is it a want? Is it a you can do this on your own, or is it that you really do need help? We're called to be servants. We're not here to be served. We're here to serve.
Right.
Well, I find it as a servant role to help Tanya with the kids the best that I can. And I've actually had to step my game up more there
Yeah.
because
And
I
that
was
makes sense.
failing. I was failing.
Gotcha.
But then on the
That's,
other side, it's draining because now I'm really far behind on everything else. Like this is no kidding. And this is not a complaint. I'm saying this in response to it's not fair and I feel trapped. I don't feel trapped. I feel blessed. I could feel trapped.
yeah.
And there's
And I mean,
sometimes
to
you want to talk
act
about
like it's
trapped,
wrong.
huh?
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to add to what you're saying. And to act like saying that shouldn't cause an emotional reaction from me is silly.
Hmm?
Oh,
Well,
sure. Now you're just going to be overreactive. Now you're going to be
yeah,
upset with me. Now you're going to be sad. Now you're going to be blah, blah, blah. Like, well, I would be a complete. What do you think? I'm made out of porcelain? Of course, that is going to be sad and upsetting. I
well,
am I
it,
not even? Are you just yelling this at the wall because I'm a human being with feelings and I'm in love with
yeah,
you? Yeah, of course I'm going to
yeah,
be not
yeah.
loving
Well,
that.
there were some things I had to talk to Tanya about because it was really hard. And she made some adjustments and it's made a big difference for me. And that's that's where the
Oh, good.
communication and the compromise comes in. But here's the deal. By Sunday morning, here's what I have to do. I want my
Uh-huh.
book done. I have to learn 2 or 3 songs for church Sunday morning.
Oh my gosh.
I have to be ready for Monday night's Marital Monkey.
Uh-huh.
I've got some of it done, but not all of it. Those 3 things. What I'm a drummer. I don't just get the basic of the song and play it. I learn the song. And I have several, at least 2 to learn. And
Mm-hmm.
I have to get more done before Marital Monkey Mondays because I know I've got a doctor's appointment Monday. I might even have to go help clean my mom and dad's house. And if I do, that takes away my Monday. I've got vacation coming up in 2 weeks, so I got to prepare more stuff in advance, along with getting the book finished, along with uh, the sessions I do, and then all the stuff I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And when the grandkids are here, it slows me
John, can you hear me
way
okay?
down. Huh?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, yeah. But that's not a,
John, do you have time for me? Do you have time for me to call you back in like 10 or 15 minutes max, or
I
could we
think
get together
so.
again? Okay, because I told Cody's mom I'd up from school and I have to pick him up at 3:10. But I'll be right back. I'm just gonna literally go down the street and pick him up and come home. So
Okay,
like
I'll
10
just leave the Zoom
minutes-ish.
going.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Okay.
and just to
Because I
end it,
know when I pull out of the driveway, it might get choppy. Can keep what?
yeah. Well, just to end what I'm saying, life's not going to be fair all the time. As a matter of fact, fair is a word that I cannot stand. It's a 4-letter word to me. You really want
Right.
God to be
Me
fair with
too.
you, but fair is different than just and what's right. So
Absolutely.
I am not complaining about it. I love these grandkids. I've grown so close to them. The 3-year-old came in there, jumped on my lap this morning and said, "I love you, Papa John." I wouldn't have that if they weren't here so
Aw.
much, but there's a time that they're going to be gone to their own house. So it's not a complaint. It's just a part. I'm just saying, if you're waiting for life to be perfect, good luck with that. All right. And that's not at Lonnie or anybody. That's just my response. All right.
Which is 40,
Sorry, I forgot to hit
40
unpause.
minutes away from home, half an hour away from home. She's got to drive all the way there to get them, and bring them back. That's once or twice a week. I mean, right now, we just don't have it. We have zero food in this house. Zero.
Is it because of
For
lack
the
of
dogs
finances?
or us.
Is it because of the lack of
Yeah,
finances?
partly for the lack of finances,
So what's the
or
other part?
things are just not getting paid, I'm assuming. And there's not enough. And we're helping everyone. Helping Jamie's sister, who doesn't want to come through with paying. Helping my brother-in-law, who he's been paying, but I don't know the whole situation why he can't pay or pay on time. This stuff comes out of my pocket and I have to sit there and wait for them. And
What's
if they do pay me, it's a certain amount at a time.
Is he supposed to be paying rent?
Yes.
Okay.
And he does. He gives me so much here, so much there. But at first it was preparing for his wedding, so he had no money. And now he's not getting married and he's having a kid, so now his money. I don't know what's going on. All I know is, not to point a finger, I go to work, I work 60 or more hours a week. Okay? I come home, my house is trashed. My house has been trashed mostly since I've been married, unless I've cleaned it myself on a regular basis.
Okay, let me stop
Number
you right
one.
there. Let me
My
stop
wife
you.
does
Wait, hey,
clean.
hold on,
Huh?
hold on, Lonnie. Let me ask you a quick question. You
Yeah.
said it, unless you clean it yourself, you had a little anger in your voice. Can you
Yes,
elaborate on
because
that?
I've got another grown adult here who has an ailment every time you turn around, or she's too tired or she doesn't want to do it.
Okay.
Since we've been together, Jamie's jobs, she only works a certain amount of days a week, only works a certain amount of hours a week. Okay. We've got 2 boys that are old enough. They do chores, yes, but you have to beg them to do it. And half the time, the chores that they're doing, they're cleaning up their mess that they've made all week long.
Okay, I want to dig into this real quick because of the way your voice came across when you said that. Because this is something that I'm interested in. These boys, okay, we made a change about 3 weeks ago that when you tell them to do something, they're to do it immediately. I asked Jamie about it. I
Yeah,
want to hear
right.
what your answer is.
Well, no, not exactly. And today, the argument, not even
Wait,
an argument, just me
what?
being upset.
Hang on really quick,
Huh?
Lenny. Not exactly. I didn't say anything. Why did you say not exactly? Let me rephrase
Not
what
exactly, because when you say something to them or you try to tell them they need to be okay with something, the conversation just keeps going on and on and on and on
Okay, so
and
then do
on,
we
and
do the
it's
discipline thing?
when and where and huh? What's
So
that?
do we do the discipline thing then, like we discussed? Remember I said if they don't do it, just shake it off your shoulders and take something away.
No, I'm actually trying to tell him to just end the conversation and do what he's got to do. And I've got my wife right here in my face, right in front of them, telling them, Lonnie, you need to calm down. I don't have a problem with going. I said, what? I go, why are you going back and forth with them right now? It needs to be, he needs to be okay with it. Well, I don't mind. I don't mind the back and forth. I don't mind having the conversation over and over again with him. I said, well, then by all means, carry on. We've got one day off together right now because I changed my schedule because it works better for us to have our sessions. And it also works better for me not to be coming home working 2 hours or more extra because of traffic at the times that I'm leaving. So that left us down to one day off together, right? So now our day off together has already been, Lonnie, would you like to get up and come out and watch a movie with me and so on and so forth? Sure. I come out here, it's all discussion about the same topic over and over and over and over. And we have to keep pausing the movie. So our time together is compromised. She's irritated with me because I'm trying to tell him to leave it cut and dry. Do the dishes like you were asked so that you can earn having your friend come over. That turns into, well, while you're out to go get him, can you go get another one of my friends? She tells him, I don't feel good and I don't want to drive all that way. Please do the dishes. He goes out there. 2 seconds later, he's back. I said, Hayden, go out there and wash the dishes, and then we'll discuss what happens when you're done with doing the dishes. He just keeps it up and keeps it up. Then Tristan, he's asking, can he go to his friend's house? Can he do this? Can he do that? And I'm literally irritated by the fact that it's more money, more money, more money, more money, more money to do things when there's plenty of shit right here at this house to do that needs to be done. She now all of a sudden doesn't feel good. Tristan didn't feel good for days, but while he didn't feel good, he was wondering, can I go stay at my friend's? Can I go stay at my friend's? I'm just literally irritated that financially we are not doing well right now. We have bills that are due, that have been due. Every time I talk to Jamie about bills, regroup. Oh, no, I paid this, I paid that. Not 1 week later, that same bill is right back at me in my face. And she's telling me I need money for this. I need money for that. I don't want money to come between my wife and I don't want to. I've had this problem with people before in my life, but I don't want these issues. And I make $100 and something thousand a year. She's now a hairdresser. Now that she's working, it seems like we have less money than what we had before she was working, before she wasn't working.
What, do you guys not put your money together?
Yes, we put our money together.
Okay.
But she has certain things in her name that she's set up the account and set up the passwords and everything, and she takes care of it. Times when I've had money, I want to eliminate the problem and get rid of the back. No, no, no. My wife runs the show. She don't let me run the show. She runs the show. I'm trying not to let the enemy cause problems and rifts between my wife and I, but I keep telling her the same things over and over and over again. She's too controlling with things. She has to have it her way. I try to get these things taken care of so that it don't keep coming up to bite me. But every single week she's at me before I even come home. She knows what day I get paid. I get paid direct deposit. We have to pay this. We have to pay that. We have to pay this. We have to pay that. My whole check's gone. Next week, same thing. And then the same checks that she asked me to pay the week before, we're paying this week. But yet, at the same time, we are frivolously, both of us, spending money because we're going out to eat because there's no food here, or we don't have time, or she doesn't feel good. So we're spending way too much money that way. The kids, every day, they want 2 and 3 meals from fast food restaurants. I used to cook all the time. They don't want my food. My wife doesn't consistently cook. She doesn't consistently keep food readily available for us to take to work. So we don't have to go out to eat. She'll start it and then she stops, like most things. Start and then stop. And then she's all upset because of our weight. She wants to get in shape. And every single time it's a long talk with me about how we're going to do this together, that together, this together, that together. And then she has all the ideas and have done all the research and this is what she wants to do. I say, okay, let's do that. Immediately falls apart. She doesn't follow through with it, doesn't do it. Then now she's all upset about how she looks, and that interferes with our relationship and our intimacy. So unless, like when we got together, I completely 100% do almost everything, it's not going to be done on a regular basis by anyone else. And what I feel is, forget all the unfairness and all that type of stuff, but a person that there's something to be said for a person that goes to work for 5 days a week, 60 to 70 hours versus someone who goes to work for 3 to 4 days a week. 2 of the days she works a half a day, has way more time on her hands, and has 2 boys that are here at the house that don't do anything but stay up all night and sleep all day. And they're 3 people and I am 1. Also, the fact that I am the type of person, and I've always been the type of person that if I live in a home by myself, my stuff is the way it's supposed to be. If I live in a home with other people, everyone should pitch in. But I'm not going to do it all. And I'm not going to clean up after people who are grown enough to clean up for themselves, that I have struggled and fought with my wife over to teach them how to do it and how to do it right. So long story short, right here today, I think some of my animosity and some of my being upset has to do with the fact that no matter what I say or how I say it, or no matter what I do, unless I do it all for the sake of my marriage and to be more godly like and be the better husband that she can ever have in her life, it won't be done. And I'm talking dog feces all over my house that people will walk over. Urine in the house that they will walk over because they will not take them out and take them out properly or consistently. Nor will they keep them on track when I pay lots of money for shot collars and remotes to teach them, because especially since one of them's deaf, no, you can never find them. They're broken. No one knows where they are. They're not charged. And I mean, and everything my wife says, I don't want you to take them out without those on, do this, do that. Now that's their excuse. Well, James said, Aunt Jamal said, or Mimi said, well, I can't take out the one that's deaf because this, that, and the third, and that, and this. There's an excuse for everything, why it doesn't get done. And if you were to come here to visit us, I'm going to be straight up honest with you, John. I wouldn't even let you in my house because I don't even like the way it looks. I don't have my family come visit me ever. Never. Because even the men in that family that live by themselves do not live like this. We have a gym that we could be working out in our own house, and I wouldn't have to try to get a gym outside the house. But it has got foam pads on the floor on the floor that is soaked with dog urine and feces, and it just sits there, and my brother-in-law and my nephew go in there and work out around it when they work out. I cannot do that. And that gym is my brother-in-law's gym, who put it in my living room. I adjusted my whole house around for it. I paid $100 and something for a gate that Hayden and his friends broke down less than a week after I bought it. I suggested, now that he had money and he works out in the gym, that maybe it's a good idea for him to get another one. He protested it, and I got a little animosity from my wife about it. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you guys. I can't just keep shelling out, putting off bills, come up with money out of my ear to fix this, fix that, do this, do that. And it's getting destroyed. Literally destroyed. And I come in my house and my house smells like a zoo. I am literally frustrated that we are at this status, and everything I say to my wife, humbly or upset, she has a feasible, logical excuse for everything. Or she's telling me, well, I don't see you doing it. And I'm like, yes, but I'm not the one. I'm hardly ever here. I sleep here. I shower here. And every time I do that, I clean up after myself. If, God forbid, one time I left something somewhere because we had to run out the door, and she sees that, and I have anything to say about anything, oh yeah, what about this? You left this here. Yeah, that's the one time in God knows how long, and you already know me. I'm surely gonna go get it and put it away. In one instance, I have OCD and I'm too much and I'm a problem. And in the other instance, I'm not, and I'm just as bad as they are. And that's a good reason for them to just, I mean, she videos me and records me. But one thing she don't do is videotape our house and send it to you. She doesn't show you the way we're living. And I'm just, not to mention the fact that, one, I have PTSD, I have anxiety. According to my wife, she thinks I have ADHD just like the rest of them. So therefore, when I get to this point and I'm totally broke and I've got bills coming at me and they're just about to take all of our vehicles and our phones are not on right now, when I just gave money for that a couple weeks ago, everything is shutting down around us, and I don't understand how.
Okay, let me hang on really quick. I've got about 3 minutes before my other guys show up at 4. What do you guys, there's just so much right now. I'm going to focus on the financial thing because that obviously can be a marriage killer. How good are you guys before you were married with money? Managing it, making sure that there's a budget and everything set so that you're not living like this. Were you guys good at this before you were married, or are both of you kind of so-so?
Individually or while we were together?
Yeah, individually before you guys got together. How were you with money? Jamie, how about you first? Really quick.
I think that I, was raised in a way where you were taught how to rob Peter to pay Paul, with your bills. Fumbling things around, knowing what has to be paid right now, knowing that sometimes you don't have enough, but you make it work. I'm not an overspender of, when it comes to possessions, stuff like that. It's not really an issue for me. We both are like mediocre-ish credit. you know, like, and that's mostly due to just too much for how much we make, our
Okay.
debt to income ratio.
Yeah. Okay.
But we've never had bankruptcies, either of us, nothing like that. And beforehand, I mean, I always did well with the money that I made, and I make
Okay.
good money for the hours that I work.
Okay.
You
How
know,
about you,
I work
Lonnie,
right now like
specifically?
32 hours a week.
I got you. Lonnie, how good were you with money before you guys got together?
Well, in my younger years, not that great.
Okay.
I was never taught how to manage money, never taught any of that type of stuff.
Okay.
But after failing several times, living out of a car once that was going to be repossessed because I got laid off from 2 jobs, then out of the military, medically separated. And when I came back to New York, I struggled because I was going to college and everything else, but I made ends meet and I worked 24/7 while I went to school. And the only thing I was lacking in at that point was food.
Okay. Let me give you guys a little bit of advice, and I'm going to give you guys, can you guys handle a monster assignment that's going to take you several hours?
Yeah, we have nothing better to do today.
Jamie, how about you?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, here's what I want you to do. This whole scenario, we could sit here. You probably know that I've got a bazillion things going through my mind, but I've got it. They haven't showed up yet. They might be late because they sometimes are a few minutes. Here's what I want you guys to do. By the time we meet next Thursday, I want this done. And with your permission, depending on how detailed you want to let me know things, get this financial thing in order. Because sex, family, finances, and technology, your 4 marriage killers. And since Lonnie had referenced it over and over and over, I think that might be a good place to start. Because this is something that we can take care of and get a handle on quicker than some of the other stuff. Cool? You guys cool with that?
Yes.
Yep.
Here's what I want you to do. How do you guys pay your bills? You guys pay it on credit cards? You pay it in cash? What's the deal? Mainly.
We usually pay online or pay over the phone with our account.
And how do you keep track of how much money's in the bank?
We just always are checking and just kind of have little checks and balances and know what we have and what our bills are going to be for that week. And we do it week to week.
Week to week. Okay. For the last, I would love it to be more than this if you guys have time to do it. But at least for the last 8 weeks, I want you guys to come together and make a journal or a ledger, log, whatever you want to call it. You can use Excel, you can use piece of paper. I don't care. I want you to write down or print out every penny you can find you've spent in the last 8 weeks and where it went. Okay. Example, dining out. It doesn't have to be McDonald's, Hardee's, Taco Bell, dining out as a whole. We went out to eat. This is how much money we spent this week. Then how much money you spent on gas and how much money you spent on household utilities. Get all of that together. Add it up per month.
John,
Because yes.
would you like that itemized individually or together?
What do you mean by that?
How much Jamie has spent on certain categories and how much I've spent on certain categories separate or together?
I prefer you guys to join it together.
Okay.
But what you can do, you can do it individually. I think that's actually a pretty good idea. Do it individually so you'll know what each of you are responsible for doing. And then we can combine it because, it's not hard to add 2 numbers together. If Lonnie, you spent $200 on something and Jamie spent 150, we can say, okay, this is what you're spending. This is what you're spending. but it's a whole as 350. And the reason I say that, I like it together. It's not Lonnie's money or Jamie's money. It should be your money combined. Some people operate separately. I'm not a fan of that. It works sometimes, and if that works for you, fine. But to me, I get it in some areas. I don't want to get into it. It'll take me forever. But my goal here is to have you guys see in black and white what is going out, what's necessary, what's not, where you can cut back. Because if you guys are as broke as you just said, Lonnie, that's just added stress. So what if you can't eat
Tell me
out
about
5 times a week? So what?
I'm about to blow ahead, John. I'm so frustrated. I know how much money I make. I know how long I work. I know what my future plans and goals are, and I'm never going to. I'm never going to be able to retire if we keep going at this rate.
Okay.
Never will I retire.
Okay. Well, let's not use the word never. You don't know. It's one of those things that we try to not let people do, is never and always, because we don't know that. But if you think you're never going to be able to retire, you still got what, 15 more years to go? Let's get your crap together. What do you think about that?
Thank you. If you ask my wife, I talk to her about it 24/7. We need to downsize. We need to minimize and make sure that our cost of living is only a small percentage of what we make. This is ridiculous.
Okay. Let's do that. Let's start digging into the financial part of it first. I wouldn't say it was a big deal, but finances are huge in a marriage. All right. So you guys put your reports together, whatever you have to do. It's going to take some patience, some time working together. And I want you guys to come back to me. You get 2 options. You discuss it on your own. You add up your incomes together. Find out what you make on a monthly basis. Find out what your expenses are on a monthly basis. Then you take out the recreational portion of it, which includes eating out, going to the movies, going bowling, all of the things that are not necessities. Remove it to see how much money you have left. And it's going to shock you. I did this with another couple to encourage you. These folks were on the brink of bankruptcy. Their house was being foreclosed on. And I put them in this project, except I didn't say 8 weeks. I gave them 3 months of work to go back and do. And by the time they got finished and they busted their tails, and they came back to me and they said, John, we had no idea. We had absolutely no idea until you had us do that. And their house literally was in foreclosure. I have a friend of mine who's a bank manager. I asked her, I said, what's their options in this moment? She said, there's really not any options. Once it gets to this point, it's pretty certain they're going to foreclose. God made a move because they did what they were responsible for doing, and the bank backed off. That doesn't happen, guys. And now they're doing quite well. I don't work with them anymore, but I've gotten a text or 2 from the lady that just kind of reiterated how well they're doing to let me know. Same thing can happen here. So first thing is getting your finances in order. Now, I'm decent with finances. It's what I did for 20 years for my mom and dad. So find out and then start separating it into utilities, food, recreation, entertainment, gas, that type of thing. And see where you stand. See how much money is going out, because I bet you it's a lot more shocking than you think it's going to be. Because think about it. Let's say, I'm going to use you, Lonnie. Let's say that you're a Dr. Pepper fan. And every 3 or 4 days, you drop by the store and pick up a Dr. Pepper. What are they now, $2.25 or something? Not a big deal until you do it 12 times a month. Next thing you know, you're spending 30, 40 bucks on stopping by and getting a Dr. Pepper.
Right.
One of my clients said he was broke, and I did the same thing with him. This is a separate client, and I said, "What's up?" This went over this, and he told me something about he loves this burrito. He gets a burrito almost every day, 5 times a week. I said, "How much is this burrito at this restaurant?" Well, it's about $12. I said, "Okay, so 5 times a day, it's $12." He said, "Yeah, not a big deal." I said, "So what you're telling me is you're spending $240 on burritos a month?" He said, "What?" I said, 240. You know, that hit him so hard. He said, "I quit eating the burritos." True story. Because you don't think about it. $12 doesn't sound like a lot of money until you look at how many times you spend it on a monthly basis. So that's why I want you guys to do this. I have a program you guys have probably heard of, QuickBooks.
No.
Mhm.
And every time we eat out, I have a category called dining out. Every time we get groceries, I have a category called groceries, but they are subcategories of food. So I can see as a whole how much we're spending and how much we're eating out and how much we're spending at the grocery store.
Mhm.
That way, if we're running short, and I can look at it and say, gosh, we're eating out way too much. We're spending way too much money out eating out or anything like that. That's just an example of why it's important to have a good handle, a better handle. So if you guys are, mediocre, so-so, better than average, whatever, I can help you. So that's your assignment before next week, to get together and dissect your expenses for the last 8 weeks. Let's see where the money's going. Because you know what? That
Yeah.
type of stress, it wears on you mentally, and sometimes you don't even recognize the mental strain. Okay.
Yeah, but it appears. I don't want to say it doesn't. It appears that it just does not and never has stressed Jamie out.
Well,
She doesn't get. She's just like, well, Lonnie, we'll just have to do what we got to do, and we just this and that,
well,
and we just.
how about this approach? How
Oh,
about you guys get your reports together? Your homework. This is like literally a homework assignment. Get your reports together, and then we'll work on all of that later.
okay.
Because this has a tendency to open eyes. Now, there's there's one more thing, Lonnie. I'm going to give you probably one of the toughest challenges I've given you yet, if you're willing to receive it and do it.
Oh yeah.
You sure?
Yeah, pour it on. I mean, I've only got up to my eyeballs and other things I got to do. Sure.
Okay.
And that's a joke, but a frustrated joke.
I got a little emotional waiting for your answer. This
Yeah,
doesn't this doesn't require hours. This requires humility and humbleness.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to lay your hands on your wife and pray over her. Talk to God and bless your wife in his presence and pray over your wife. Told you.
I will do it, but it's gonna be hard because I'm not saying it's gonna be too hard to do, but it's gonna be hard because I'm literally like I when you spend forever talking and talking and talking and trying until you get to a point where you're like, I'm talking to I love this person, I love this brick.
Yeah. Okay.
I love this brick.
Now, let me ask you this. What does the Bible say about that very thing you just said? Not the brick. You're not going to know it because you don't know where I'm going with it. I want to tell you.
Cornerstone?
Well, you can go with that if you'd like, and I think that's a really good way to do it. However, it's easy to love someone that loves you back. Jesus loved us in our absolute trash. Jamie's not trash. In your mind,
No,
she's got
she's
some
not.
improvements to do. And she knows that. She told me earlier. She told me this earlier. Part of Lonnie's frustration is probably, I don't remember the exact wording she used, but Jamie, you could correct me, is partly because I'm not good with following through on things. And it's kind of a residual effect. She knows it. Now the key is, now this is not saying it's one way or the other. If that's the case, if she knows it, then she's either going to apply it, she's growing into it, and it's getting it from the intellectual part down to the heart part. That's where we struggle sometimes. We know, but getting it to the heart part is harder. The time to
Right,
pray.
especially when of the person that knows is so stubborn and will not, cannot. And I just came to a
Don't speak death.
revelation of what you said about praying over her, because I mean, I just feel like she can't get out of her own way.
Okay. Then pray with that over her if that's the way you feel, because you know what? When you take that to God, if it's accurate and it's not just a perception, God's going to hear your prayer if you live with your wife in an understanding way as a weaker vessel and a fellow heir to the throne. Then he will hear your prayer. But if you're living with your wife and you're not understanding and you're not trying to understand her and you're not trying to gain information and study her, and you don't recognize that she's the weaker vessel, that's not an insult, but she's the weaker vessel, then God's not going to hear you.
Right.
I didn't say that. That's the word, brother. You know how I know it's the word? It's a chapter in the book.
I believe you.
Can you hear me now?
The front part of my head just screams, how many times in my life am I going to have to be the one to be the softer one, to be the one to, I don't know if you know what I'm getting at, but
I
I've done
do.
it with everyone, my own parents,
Okay.
but this is your
everybody I
wife.
know. Yeah, this is your
I
wife.
know.
My question to you is, how many times is Jesus going to have to forgive you?
True.
See, one thing is, as humans, and this is in the book, one thing as humans that we do, we're all experts at it. I want you to think about this statement. Let me make sure they're not in the waiting room. Hold on, guys. Let me let her shoot. Can you guys sign out and let me, don't let me forget this. Just remember where I was going, and I'll put it in the coaching group at least.
Okay.
All right, guys, I'm sorry. I forgot that I muted my JAWS screen reader. All right, I'll chat with you guys super soon, maybe even tonight.
Okay. Thanks,
All right.
John.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
I am so sorry, so sorry, so sorry.
It's okay.
I've been here the whole
in my
time.
it's okay. In my mind, I was like, well, he must be on the phone talking to someone. You didn't even try the little chickens. They're so good. Take one bite.
Well, you just happen to be spot on because I have a couple I worked with before you guys.
Uh-huh.
And I told them I only have so much more time because I've got another couple coming on. And I got so passionate with this husband, I forgot that I turned my screen reader off, because if my screen reader's on and I'm with them, my screen reader will pop up and say, Tracy is in the waiting room. Then I'm like, okay, guys, I've got to go over here, which is what I did last time. But I forgot that I turned off my screen reader. I'm sitting here challenging this guy. And I said, let me make sure they're not in the waiting room. And then I realized my screen reader is off. You're there. It's 4:15. I went, oh my gosh, I cannot believe what I just did.
It's okay.
So thank you for hanging in there. I am so sorry.
It's okay. We spent that time arguing. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not shocked.
So we do actually have something to talk about this week.
Okay, let me hit my, let me stop this last recording.